All right, folks, we're here with the post-game show after Notre Dame beats Navy. Mr. Ueyama, how you feeling about this after the game? What are you thinking?
Well, it was a Navy game. It was a
It was
very
that.
Navy. It was a very Navy game.
It was.
Um, I'll say that the start wasn't great for Notre Dame's offense, obviously. So, um,
No.
not feeling great about Notre Dame's offense and how they performed at times during this game. Um, Not feeling great coming out of this game. Looks like you're going to lose Avery Davis for the year. That's big. I'm sure I know we'll get into that more. Um, but I mean, I think if you're looking for the one thing, the defense was awesome in this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just awesome. Like maybe one of the best performances against Navy they've had in years. And I know Navy's not a good offense, but they've done better in recent weeks.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame had a great game plan.
Thought D line did
Um,
well most of the
D
time.
line was awesome. Defensive tackles,
Second string D
terrific.
line to start the second half, I didn't like, but I understand why. But it seemed like they had that group in all the way until they got to the red zone, and then they put the other guys in there and shut them out and everything. But it was it was a little dicey there on the start of the second half. But other than that, I thought they played really really well.
Yeah, they did. And I just think all around, like if you look at, we talked about tackling and we saw how Wake Forest didn't exactly tackle Sam Howell very well in
Yeah,
this game.
yeah,
A little bit easier when you're not trying to tackle Sam Howell. Thought
yeah,
they did a terrific job tackling in this game. They gave up the one big play on the reverse. That's it. That's
yep,
all they gave up. Before the second string guys were later on, not even the second string, but like the third team defense guys were out late in the game. They held them to less than 3 yards per play.
yeah.
Like just yeah, like couldn't be more impressed with how they did. Held them to the field goals in those situations. Yeah, great game. Great game by the defense.
It's interesting because I think neither one of us were impressed with. I didn't like the game plan. I didn't like what they were trying to do. And it's crazy because when you look at Cohn's numbers, they're pretty good, but he missed a lot of open receivers, guys that were, he should have hit. And it was kind of frustrating, but I don't know. They just seemed disjointed coming right out of the gate. I didn't like the game plan. I understand you want to run the football when you can, but especially if a team is sending that many people that often, there are plays to be had there. There are plays to be had. Just could not connect, or were not designing plays to take advantage of some of the stuff they were doing. So it is a
Yeah,
cat and mouse game. It is. I thought that Navy came out with a good game plan defensively, what they tried to do, and but you would think Notre Dame could adjust a little bit quicker than they did, and it was just kind of a frustrating game all the way around on offense. There were times where they looked good, and but it just is what it is. We'll just have to see. I liked seeing a lot of the freshmen play. I thought they did pretty good. I thought it was important, Jamie, that they got Diggs in on that last touchdown.
yeah,
There were a lot of second string O linemen in the game, a lot of second string players, and they drove down and got Diggs in the end zone there. Normally that wouldn't have happened. We just don't usually see that with this team, but they came out and did a good job. So I'm really really impressed with what I saw defensively. Offensively, just not impressed and surprised. I really am kind of surprised they didn't have more success, offensively. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Where do you think that it broke down?
well, I'll obviously, when we go rewatch the game, we'll kind of see different things. But I kind of thought in this game, the way they started in this game and what they wanted to do, like I thought, especially in some of those those when they're going empty there, and they had a great plan. Navy had a great plan. Brian Newberry, the defense coordinator, awesome game plan. Really just unpredictable with his pressures and everything. Thought he did a terrific job. I would say though that not having the mobile quarterback in those situations, there's a lot of times he could have ran. He probably
Mhm.
should have ran,
Yeah,
for first downs. He could have. He had it there, right? So there was that element of it on like 3rd and 8 he could have ran even he I know he's not the fleetest of foot, but he could have ran for a bunch of those first downs. So some of it I think was on Cone and his decision making. I think when looking back on it, I was thinking during the game, and I don't know if you felt the same way. And we've been always talking about spreading teams out and doing more of that, and obviously they've been better doing that. But I thought in this game, especially because of kind of what Navy did and how you could match up against Navy, I thought they could have done a little bit more 12 personnel with Buckner. Thought they should have went to that much sooner in the game. Maybe even second or third drive. I mean, definitely after the first couple drives, and they didn't. They came out and they moved the ball in the next drive. But I really just thought that that was a missed opportunity not using Buckner. I still don't really understand why Lorenzo Styles only had one target in the game. Like, get this guy the ball.
Don't
Get this
understand.
guy the ball, right? He's the leading receiver 2 weeks in a row. That was a mistake. I did love seeing them take, that skinny post with Colsey.
Yeah.
That was great. And, obviously there's a lot of guys who played well in the game on offense for the most part. So it's not like they played that bad, but I just think, I think if you look at it, especially in the first half, Notre Dame got out coached in the first half.
I thought so too, especially on the offense. I just was not.
Yeah, on offense, not on
Yeah,
defense.
I think defense was
yeah.
was real solid the whole game.
Yeah.
You really you can't complain at all about what they did defensively. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think taking their quarterback out hurt a little bit as far as what they were doing. But to be honest, I think the teams that Notre Dame has struggled against with Navy are when they have those small, kind of really shifty quarterbacks that are hard to find. And I think the difference in this situation with Navy is their O-line just isn't as good as what it used to be,
No.
And too many plays for Notre Dame to get in the backfield and blow plays up. And I think we were a little concerned about how are they going to handle it. Well, I thought they handled it the right way. It's funny because everybody's like, well, why isn't Botello playing? And you saw the one play where, he should have taken the pitch man, and that ended up being a big play.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's going to happen in the option. But I think that's just kind of one of the reasons that he doesn't play as much is because he gets, sucked in on the eye candy a little bit too much. And as effective as he is, he can also give up a big play like that. But I thought he played really well in this game. I thought that, for the most part, he was really, really good. Obviously Heinisch played really, really well. I thought Jason Adamalola had a pretty solid game. Myron did some nice things.
Jacob Lacey.
Yeah. Really, Jacob Lacey had some really nice plays there. And so that's good to see. I thought the rest tackled pretty well. I thought that was important. They did a good job of tackling. So defensively, I'm happy. And I mean, gosh, how many years in a row did we come out of this game where it would come down to the wire, Jamie, and they'd eke it out, but it was the most frustrating game in the world to watch.
Yeah.
And while this was still somewhat frustrating at times because of the offense, they still beat the crap out of them. I mean, they just did.
Oh, yeah.
So there's nothing for anybody to complain about. And I want to, first of all, apologize. I got a cold that's been kind of kicking my butt here the last few days, so I'm not going to sound real good, so I apologize. But it's hilarious because it's the same thing, though, Jamie. Whenever Notre Dame wins or this game was close, it's because the offense plays pathetic. And sometimes the defense was playing pathetic too, but it will never be a game if the offense does what they're supposed to do and should do every week against Navy. It's not like they're playing some crazy, defense that they've never seen before, like the defense has to play with the offense. They shouldn't have this many mental breakdowns against a very below average Navy team. And again, I don't think it was Cone's best day, even though the stats will show that he made some and let's be honest, he did make some big throws. He did. Made some really important throws, too. But I do think that there were some points and some wide open receivers left on the field that he should have been able to find. But really can't complain. There's just really nothing you can do but hope for the best, and that's what it is. So. Um, all right, folks. If you're out there listening, if you want to start asking Jamie and I questions, it probably won't be a real long post game show because it just there's not a whole lot. Not a whole lot to talk about other than hey, they did well. Offense struggled. I will say I did like seeing Xavier Watts. I thought he looked really good.
Yeah, and love seeing him flash.
You know what? Game. I mean, if he's going to play like that, he's playing as well as any of those other safeties, in my opinion. I mean, it's one game, but I think he's earned a shot at least. I really do. I'd like to see him play, and hopefully we'll see him get some reps and see what happens. Look, I mean, almost everybody they plug in that's young like that tends to play well. I mean, they really tend to play well. So let's see what he can do. I'd really like to see it. Love to see Coley out there running around. That was nice to see.
With a big pop on the
yeah. So, all right, folks, if you got some questions, feel free to ask. If you're there in the chat, if you would, just put question, before you type in whatever your question is so we know, and then Jamie and I will get to it and see what happens. There's a few here. We'll see that they've already started here. First question, poor adjustments by Reese. Why? Any thoughts, Jane?
Well, I think some of it, like on that fourth down where it was, big went for it on 4th and 4 on that. To me, that play, that's like, it's like one of those plays where I thought Notre Dame had to play. I thought it was set up. Out of Cone didn't see it, and that wasn't on the protection either. Like the ball's got to get out.
Yeah,
the ball's got to get out. So I thought more of it. I didn't think it was adjustments by Reese. I mean, obviously, I would have, like we mentioned, put Buckner in more, done some other things, maybe even played a little bit heavier at times too, just to mix things up, even just to save because. They weren't. That's the one thing you can always count on Navy, even though they're a tough team, and they had some pretty good linebackers. But Notre Dame could still bully them. Even this Notre Dame team, which isn't really bullying anybody, they could still bully them. So I always think when it's like that, and they're trying to play so many games, like bully them. So Reese could have done that, but I think a lot of it was I don't think Cone was very sharp in the beginning of this game.
No,
right?
No.
I think there was a lot of throws too that. He was getting the ball out in the last two games. Like there were tight windows. Mm-hmm. He had to throw it, and when you're going against drop eight coverage, you got to get rid of it. But he wasn't letting it go like he was. He was way more decisive in previous games. So I think I would probably put a little bit more on Cone's shoulders and how he was playing at the beginning of the game. Obviously, he got better as the game went on.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we have here. Drew Pine was missing in action once again. Yes, he was. I think that's going to continue. I don't see that changing. A guy calling here says, hey, I'd like to see more of Tyler Buckner in the game. And I agree. I think that they had some opportunities to bring him in the game and just didn't. And, is what it is, but I'd like to see it happen a lot more. So we'll see what happens. Hang on. Looks like Michigan State's going to lose to Purdue.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Good resume win for Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I guess you called that too. I think you picked.
I did call that. Yeah,
you picked Purdue. Way to go. All right, hang on. I thought we saw a question here. Here we go. I think this is an interesting question. Why don't they give Buckner more reps to actually throw? I mean, I agree 100%. And they did on the one throw. There was a penalty, I think, that came back because of it. But it was crazy because then it was 1st and 5. And I'm like, well, throw it again,
Yeah.
I mean, throw it again. If you only got to get 5 yards, I mean, let's try and hit a big play. And it didn't happen. But they're going to have to give him the opportunity to throw the football. I think it's going to happen more. We'll probably see it some in Virginia. And and then Georgia Tech and hopefully some in Stanford. So we'll see what happens.
Made a
But
nice throw on that slant to Austin too.
yeah, hang on a second. What's the figurine you've got covered with your whiskey bags? Oh, in the back. No, those are microphones. Those are condenser microphones for recording. And instead of me having to undo it and put it in the box, I just use those whiskey bags to cover them so they don't get dust. That's what that is. So, nice question. Uh, let's see what else we have. There we go. Question. I want the Yama to comment on Tommy Reese's game plan. Go ahead, Yama.
Well, I mean, I kind of already mentioned some of the stuff that I thought Buckner should have came in the game more. I thought there was, there what they did a good. I'd say Navy did a good job taking away some of the RPO stuff that Notre Dame had done well in this game. So I think that's one of those things where maybe I don't know for sure, but I would say you have to come in preparing like they're going to take away a lot of the stuff that you did in the last couple of weeks. And I don't think there was a good enough counter to some of that. So it definitely was not Reese's best game plan. Like I said, I would have probably tried to play a little bit heavier at times.
Well, if you're going to be so committed to running the ball, then be committed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
And then the other thing is, they had, when they hit Colsey and, I think it was a 31-yard gain. That was another one where it was condensed, it was 12 personnel. They hit them there. I think that's where there's opportunities there.
All day long, middle of the field.
Because, yeah.
If you're blitzing safeties like that, there's somebody open. There's a wide area open. And if you notice, that's where most of the throws were, and Cone just wasn't finding them, Just wasn't finding him. Crazy. Do you have anything else to add, Yama?
No, just that I think that, I just think that I thought heading into the game, they would have attacked the middle of the field more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No doubt. Sorry, but this is a 45-6 game if Buckner plays the whole game or Pine. You have to put the athlete, you have to out-athlete Navy, and Cone isn't that type of athlete. I mean, I think Cone could have, if Cone was more accurate and found the throws, it would have been that, I just think he had an off day. He's been pretty good, leading up to this. So there's really not much to complain about. I think he'll get to be better again next week. I just think he had an off day is all. That happens. Yama, you have off days, don't you? Not the Yama.
No.
Yama
I don't have many. So
I have a lot.
I can't say I do. So
No, you never.
All these other people with off days, everybody has bad days.
Question: does the Yama like the nickname the Yama? I think he does.
I don't mind it. I
think it's awesome.
I'll live with it.
Got another question here. Diggs has some Najee to his game. I'm not saying he's necessarily as good yet, but they have very similar running style. His patience on that 20-plus yard run was impressive. Comparisons from Jamie, from the Yama. Who do you compare him to?
I mean, not Najee Harris. I wouldn't compare him to Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris is like if you've ever seen Najee Harris in person, he's built like a defensive end. It's like Jordan Botello at running back. He's a big dude. He's a very big dude. And he was like that when he was like 16 years old. Like the guy's a freak. There's a reason why he's a 5-star. Comp wise, I don't know. I don't know what the right comp for Diggs is, but I mean, I'll say I've always been a big fan of Diggs. Like I liked it when they offered. I remember when they were like searching for that back in the class after they lost out on Shipley, and they offered a bunch of 3-star kids and low 4-star kids, and he was the guy that I liked the most. And it was because of things that you saw with this day. He had good feet, quick one-cut ability, and physical. He could run through tacklers, right? So, yeah, I think he has a chance to be a great player for Notre Dame, right? And I think he catch the ball, all these kind of things. This does give me an opportunity though to say that I love seeing Diggs get in the end of the game, but why are they giving Kyron Williams a carry on the last series there? Get him out of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Get him out of the game. Like,
Uh,
especially after Avery Davis is hurt. Get
you,
Kyron out of the game. Don't
yeah,
take
I
any
just didn't
chances.
understand that at all. And uh, hey, first of all, what a run by Kyron too. I mean, that was such an impressive run. Hey, the guy's just amazing. It really is. Well, but back to Diggs. The thing I like about him, he has good balance. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
backs just don't have good balance. When they get kind of banged around, they fall down easily, that type of thing. He's got really good balance. I think he's going to be a guy that's just going to get better and better. I mean, if you compare him to, say, Chris Tyree, his first year, I think Diggs is more of the better back in the first year. And so I think he's going to be pretty darn good. I'm surprised we didn't see more of Tyree. I mean, they must be really worried about this turf toe and want to get it more and more. He was in there. He had one really nice blitz pickup.
Great place. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he did well, but they just really limited him, and probably because they just didn't think that they needed him. You know,
Yeah.
so hopefully he'll be ready to go for the next game. All right, we got another call or question here. Again, sorry about my cold, folks. I apologize. Question for Mike and Jamie. Maybe it's just me, but it seems often and obvious when Buckner should be inserted based on the defensive play and calling, but he's not inserted. What gives?
I don't know if it's always obvious because I think whenever Notre Dame is struggling, everyone's like, put in Buckner. But I actually don't think that's a bad thing to feel that way or to even play it like that because I think you know that Cone isn't going to be rattled by getting pulled out of the game, and he can come in at any time and deliver. He's shown that in recent weeks. So yeah, I do think there is some like this game. I think third series, especially after the first two series, like Buckner, even if he's not starting that drive, should have been at some point in that drive. To me, that's just like automatic. I think most third series of the game feels pretty good to get Buckner in the game if you're going to use him. I think last game did a tremendous job. I loved how they used him last game. So I think in this game, yeah, I think to a lot of people it seems pretty obvious, but I don't know. Maybe they just kind of thought, because Cone, it was really struggling. They wanted to get him at least going
Yeah,
before they put Buckner in. So they didn't want to seem like they were benching him. Maybe
yeah,
that's the only explanation for it.
yeah. Next one. 5 scholarship wide receivers, and only 3 of them are freshmen. That's scary. Kind of is, man. Kind
It
of
is.
is. Um, I don't know what to do. I mean, what do you do? Um, those guys are just going to have to carry the load the rest of the way. There's nothing you can do. Um, you know, and I mean, Salerno's still a solid player. He's not terrible. So he's a guy that you can put out there and and he'll play solid football. But yeah, it is a little bit a little bit scary. So um,
Well, sorry, just to add into that, because I'm immediately my mind was going on that, and obviously, Lawrence Keys not being there, he would have been the next guy. Um, I don't know if it's too much to ask for Lorenzo Styles to play the slot because he's been playing X the whole time, and now you're gonna a freshman. It's a lot to take in, right? But I could see him going there. Obviously, he's got the skill set that he could play there. Maybe they give Lindsey some run there. Obviously, Chris Tyree, if he's healthy, that's a guy that you look at if you're going to play a little bit more two back with him and Kyron. And also, I think there's also something to playing 12 personnel with the 2 tight ends and Mayer kind of being your slot in a lot of those. And he plays in the slot a lot of time already. So,
yeah. Let's see here. Question, Mike and Jamie: is Tyree not 100% because Diggs looks so much better? Is Diggs pushing or possibly passing Tyree for playing time? I don't think so. I think it's just he's still turf toe is not an easy thing to overcome. A lot of people say you don't ever really recover from it until you can really rest it for a long period of time. So I think it was just a situation where they just didn't need him today, and because of that, you know, there's no point in continuing to play him. So, uh,
I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of held him like and put him on like a pitch count basically until the bowl game. Really,
Yeah. Hey, Jay Cordell, you've asked a whole bunch about does Yama like the name Yama? You've asked it a bunch of
I mean, it
times.
sounds like this guy loves the
Yeah,
nickname Yama.
exactly. Yes. I like this one better.
Yeah.
His mama called him Yama. I'm going to call him Yama. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Question: is Austin coming back next year? If so, we could be lethal with the others stepping up. You know, I think originally he was not going to. That wasn't the plan, but I think that that is definitely the plan. Or I think that there's a better opportunity for that to happen now. I think is the situation. Your thoughts?
I think the way better situation. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I think he has to have the monster end of the
yeah.
season for him to even consider it.
Hang on.
Even yeah. Oh, sorry,
Go
but
ahead.
even just to have this game like it is, he really had the 170 yard. It wasn't like he played well in this game, but it's against Navy. Like they're gonna watch him when they play. Notre Dame's not playing a lot of good corners at the end of this year either, right? So it's not like even if he lights it up, he could impress, but it's not like it's different than if he said like had a great game against Ahmad Gardner in
Mm,
Cincinnati or something, right? So I think he still has a lot to prove. He might just want to be out because he's going to be out, and a lot of guys make that decision. But I really think if his goal, like put himself in a good position to, because right now to me, I think he's probably like a fringe draft guy, and I mean he has like day two talent to be, to be like a second or third round pick. So I think it is probably in his best interest to come back if that's what he wants to make sure that he's all set up for that.
all right. Next question. Who would you put in the playoffs at this point? That's a good question. It was crazy because I watched Ohio State and they just look okay, man. They don't look that good. Cincinnati certainly looks worse than they did when they played Notre Dame. Michigan State just lost. I think the entire Big Ten's overrated for sure. There's no doubt about it. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. Oregon and Washington will play soon, and then Oregon's got to play Utah. So there's a chance that Notre Dame could sneak their way in this somehow, I guess. But I don't know. We'll have to see how the rest of it goes. I mean, who would you put in there?
I mean, right now you'd have to say Georgia and Bama are like the only obvious ones. But then if Bama loses and they have two losses, I mean, they still might get in if all these teams are so bad. Because say if Oregon's a two-loss Pac-12 champ,
Yeah.
I don't see them getting in over Alabama. If they like Alabama lost a close game to Georgia in the SEC championship game or something like that, right? And then if Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, well, Georgia's getting in. Georgia's getting in. They've just done enough to impress enough. But yeah, there's just not a lot of impressive teams. I think Cincinnati is just playing their way out of it because I think it all sets up for them because all these other teams are pretty mediocre. Like Oklahoma is not a good team. Like they have talent, obviously. They're not a good team. They might just back their way into it because they're going to go undefeated probably because the Big 12 is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. They are. And I just don't think Oklahoma's defense is. I mean, I think they're really bad. I just think the Big 12 is just really bad all around. So, again, sorry, folks. Can we expect to now see Jaden Thomas play more moving forward? What do you think, Jamie?
They kind of have to get him. I mean, I don't know how much he's going to actually play, but I mean, I doubt that he'll be with scout team or anything like that the rest of the year. They have to
Yeah.
because they might get into a situation where all of a sudden,
One more
you're
injury and he
down to
absolutely has to play,
and he has to play,
Yeah.
right? So he has to play. So I have no idea like where he's at in terms of how close he is to actually being able to help. But even if he's just going in just to block or something, like he might have to.
Yeah. Where do you guys think Drew Pine is going to transfer to? Awesome show as always. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he will transfer at this point, but it would not surprise me if he did, definitely. But we don't know that for a fact. I've heard he's done really well academically and is ahead of where a lot of guys are. So he could probably graduate in 3 years if he wanted to stick it out and then have 2 years to play somewhere. So that's a possibility. But I don't know. It's going to be crazy. I can't wait to see the transfer portal come December, Jamie. It's going to be nuts, man.
There's a lot of quarterbacks in the portal.
It's going to
already,
be. I mean, there's going to be 50 quarterbacks at least in the transfer portal. There just will be. So have to see whether Notre Dame looks at another guy. I think Notre Dame will consider that if it's the right person. As far as bringing somebody in from transfer portal, but we'll just have to see. I think a big thing is they got to make sure that Angeli can enroll early. That's a really big part of it. Sorry. All right. Thoughts on the future of this offense with this many freshmen getting substantial playing time? Fisher, Alt, Rocco, Diggs, Colsey, Styles, Buckner, and some good young tight ends. Future looks good, man. I'd like to see. I mean, I like what I see so far. I would like to see maybe one more explosive playmaker out of that group. Maybe Styles is that guy, but I want to see somebody who can score from 75 every time. Has the ability to do that. I think that these guys have some of that, but are they, blazing fast? I don't know. I want to see that, but boy, there sure is a lot to get excited about when it comes to this offense and these young players, Jamie.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great freshman class. I mean, these guys are only going to get better. I think that skill wise and the offensive line wise, I mean, you're not even talking about Blake Fisher in there too, right? I really think that 2023, the offense is has a chance to be special, very special.
Yeah. All right. Obviously, it shouldn't dictate the game plan play calls, but when you have Sonny Styles visiting, should there be a few extra plays designed for Lorenzo? I mean,
I don't.
There should have been a few plays designed for Lorenzo for no other reason than he's a good player and has earned. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's a good player and has earned the right to have plays designed for him. He's been very, very consistent. So I would have liked to seen a lot more. Anything from you?
Definitely would have liked to. I think it really comes down to that. And I do. I mean, I don't think it would have hurt to help, but Sonny's at the game. I mean, he's seen Lorenzo make plays already. He knows that Lorenzo's going to be a factor here. Yeah. But like you said, I mean, Lorenzo's good enough on his own. Get him the ball more. He needs more touches.
Yeah. All right, folks, if you got some more questions, feel free to put them up there. We're getting some more. So just make sure you put question before the actual question you put, and then we'll know that's what you're looking for. So here we go. A lot of talk about whether you'd want the Irish in the playoff to get smacked or win a New Year's Six Bowl. If you could handpick the postseason matchup within reason, who would you want for Notre Dame? Well, it depends on whether it's a playoff or not. You know what I mean? If it's playoff, I mean, who would you want?
I mean, I'd probably want if it's a Big Ten team that's not Ohio State. I think, if Michigan State, obviously they lost this game, but they still have a chance to make
beat
it.
Ohio State.
Yeah. I'd like that game because I think that's a game where I think Notre Dame's going to have a big talent advantage in that game. Obviously Walker's a stud and they got some players, but I still think Notre Dame has a better squad than them. And also too, I think Notre Dame too, where you're seeing Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame has a chance to be a lot better in the bowl game or in the playoff or whatever. But obviously they can still be better. But if they end up playing Alabama or Georgia, I mean, that's going to be a problem. So I guess it would be anyone but those two. Then I feel a lot better about it.
Yeah. I'd like Oregon. I'd like to play Oregon. I think Notre Dame would do well against Oregon if they played them. And that's if you get into the playoff. and we'll
Yeah.
see. What would be interesting is, say it's a situation where it's Georgia beats Alabama, right? And the Big Ten teams kind of take each other out. Say Michigan State somehow beats Ohio State, which is possible. And then it's Oregon and Notre Dame and Alabama. Would a two-loss Alabama be ranked higher than Notre Dame? Higher than Oregon? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, it's funny. And then as soon as you mentioned that Alabama losing to Georgia, I was thinking that if Alabama still gets in, they're fourth, and then it would be a rematch between them and Georgia,
And that's why I
which
think
would be
they'd put them third just to be, you know what I mean?
just to get out of that. But
Yeah,
I mean, really, I
but
think
then why put them in the game? That's not fair to
yeah.
everybody else. You know what I mean? But
So
I
it's
bet that's
almost
what
like
they would do. I bet that's what
I
they would
think they
do.
might. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they might. So I don't know.
And that's what's
I
so
mean,
lame about it. You know what I mean? Because that's a
that's
real
why four is not
possibility.
enough. It's why
Huh?
four is not enough, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a real possibility. And I could understand why they would do it because they're like, well, they've already played, But it's like, well, Notre Dame and Clemson had to do the same thing, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
So it's a tough situation. All right. Got another one here. What is the one game blip for this offense, or was this a one game blip for this offense, or evidence that our recent improvement is mostly a mirage caused by playing bad defenses? Thoughts?
I mean, the offense still they averaged 7 yards per play. So in limited drives they still scored 34 points. So it wasn't like I don't think the offense played good. They're definitely not one of their better games, but I don't think they were horrible in this game either. Still ran the ball pretty well, and I mean, definitely they're getting helped by playing worse defenses. And I remember uh, Virginia gave a 59 to North Carolina. They gave up over 60 to BYU. Like, Virginia's defense is terrible. Like, Notre Dame is going to have to play horrible to not score 40 against Virginia. When you're playing Virginia, it's keeping them under 40.
Yeah.
Is that's the deal, right? So, but there's no reason if you drop 40 on North Carolina, you should drop 40 on Virginia.
Oh, definitely.
So, and then I think if you look at like Stanford, it's not very good, guys. They're not good. They're not good. I mean, Georgia Tech, they're not very good, right? Like, so it's like I don't even think I don't think it was maybe a one game blip or whatever. I think we see that the offense is getting better, but they still aren't. I mean, this isn't an elite offense, even when they played well against North Carolina. What you do is you make a bad defense look bad. I think Navy's defense is like a kind of an average defense, really. Yeah. And Notre Dame was pretty average against them today, maybe a little bit above in some instances and worse in other instances.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it boils down to Notre Dame just did not. I don't think I didn't like the game plan. I didn't like some of the play calls, and I also thought Cohn did not play well, even though the stats show that he did. And I think because of that, that was really the issue with the offense today. Next question. Who makes the call on putting Buckner back in? Brian Kelly or Tommy Reese? I'm going to say Reese makes a call. I'm sure Kelly has a say in it, Like if he says absolutely, doesn't want him in their game at the time, I think he'd get called out for sure. But I for the most part, I have a feeling Reese is the one who kind of makes that decision. So, next question. Next year's schedule initially looked brutal, but after seeing some of the issues at Ohio State and Clemson, does next year's schedule still look brutal, tough, or not so scary? Well, I mean, we know that Olave and Wilson are gone. We know that from Ohio State, but they're just going to plug that kid who got in today and had a big game, plus
Yeah,
Marvin
Jackson
Harrison
Smith.
Jr.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've got
They've
five
recruited to a
five
point
stars
they're
they can
going to have.
throw in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's going to be a big deal. I do think that Ohio State's defense is just not what it was. I just don't see it being what it was. And I don't think it's necessarily coordinator oriented. I think it was originally in the season, and they addressed that. It may be addressed again afterwards, but I think it's talent issues. They just not as talented as they were, and I don't think they're as deep as they were. As far as Clemson goes, they have a lot of good young talent, but one thing I will say about Clemson that they just have not done really well with is recruiting offensive linemen. They just haven't stockpiled O-linemen like you think that they would based off of their results. And that's been kind of a surprise to me, Jamie. And I think it had a lot to do with some of their struggles this year as well. Thoughts?
Oh, for sure. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think, so Matt Bockhorst was a guy that Notre Dame was recruited but didn't offer. And I don't think they ever really came close to offering him. And that was like, he was like a multi-year starter at Notre Dame. And if he was at Notre Dame, not that he's a tough kid, there's a lot to like about him as a player. I know he's like a favorite of the staff and all that, but that's like having Kane Madden, in terms of like, that kind of guy that you're like, well, maybe he's good to plug in for now, but you probably rather have him as your 6th or 7th guy than a guy if you're going to have to build like a great offensive line. So, and they have a lot of guys who are kind of at that level, and they will land some good players. They have landed some good players, but you have to kind of question too, like, how are they developing? They don't have a lot of guys that, like, there's not a lot of Clemson guys on the offensive line in the NFL, right? And then I think the other thing is quarterback play. Uiagalelei hasn't been that good this year, not even close to, and they definitely missed that element of, like, Watson and Lawrence were like generational talents, and they had
no
those
doubt,
guys back to back, right? So
it can fix a lot of problems, man.
It is, right? Yeah. So I mean, so let's say Uiagalelei is still the guy, and they get. I mean, also they haven't had a lot of the receivers develop too, right? Where they had Higgins and Ross is still a good player, but he's not maybe the same guy that after his neck injury.
Yeah.
So I
thought he was going to be a monster,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
the
and it just didn't.
Is still nasty.
Yeah,
but
it's good. It's not great, but it's still pretty good. It definitely is. Yeah.
This is the other thing too, and what you say about Brent Venables, and he is a great coordinator, no doubt. But I think he's one of these guys too, a little bit like Clark Lee, where he kind of falls in love with, I love this guy. Like, Skolsky. Skolsky's a good player. Don't get me wrong, right? But Skolsky, Skolsky wouldn't play at Alabama. He would play at Alabama.
Yeah.
He wouldn't play at Georgia, right? So, and they've had guys like that at safety too. So even though they recruit at a really high level, but there's certain spots where they don't. And I think some of that is kind of catching up to them.
Yep. All right, folks, if you got more questions, let us know. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up here. I guess ND8 Sean does not like our answer about Reese making the call on who starts at quarterback. I mean, to be honest, I honestly believe that, because if you know anything about Brian Kelly, he lets his coaches coach, and he's not somebody who micromanages, and never has been. And the thing that you also got to understand is you can't get involved in this very often if you want to continue to hire quality assistant coaches, because they're just not going to come. And, it's interesting if you read the article that I think Pete wrote about when Freeman came, he mentioned he talked to Clark Lee, and he talked to Arnada as well at LSU, because he wanted to know what it was like working for these coaches as the defensive coordinator. These people talk. So you can't micromanage and just take over and make these big decisions and stuff like that, because you're going to run a lot of your best, coordinators out of the game. They're going to leave sooner than you want them to. And then you're going to struggle to hire people, because the word will get around that you
you know, get involved. I mean, that's why Notre Dame lost Urban Meyer. That's exactly why Urban Meyer left Notre Dame and took the Bowling Green job. Was he he coached that, called offense in that Stanford game. They scored 21 points right out of the gate. Everybody was sitting there going, "What the heck is this offense? Never seen anything like it." And then Bob Davie called up to the thing and said, "Well, that's it. Well, we're just going to sit on the ball. I'll take over play calling now." And I remember Urban Meyer
Bob
specifically
Davie
telling
pulled the
me,
Bob Davie.
I knew I needed to leave Notre Dame when that happened because he knew that he would never be able to really call the game. And he knew that he was the offensive coordinator next year if he stayed at Notre Dame with Davie. But he's like, well, if this is what the guy's going to do, then I'm not gonna work with this guy. And that stuff gets around, so it really does. Interesting comment here. What do you think of this? Can you read that, Yama?
Which
Diggs is
one?
better than Shipley. What do you think?
I don't know if he's better than Shipley, but I one thing I'll say, Shipley's look good for them this year, and he's an explosive player. I think Diggs might actually be a better pure running back than Shipley,
Yeah.
and I always kind of thought that he was more of a pure running back. But Shipley, you can't deny the guy's an elite athlete. Like if you get him in space, he's got the speed to break it, right? So, I mean, we'll see who has a better career at the end of it. I wouldn't be surprised if Diggs had a better career than Shipley in the end, but
Yeah.
I also wouldn't be surprised if Will Shipley end up rushing for 1,500 yards at Clemson because he's just that good of an athlete.
Well, and he can make some big plays, no question. And we'll see whether Diggs can do that. I think he's got pretty good speed. We'll just see. Uh, question: if Pat Fitzgerald is hired by the Bears, is there a strong chance Reese joins him? Well, one, why would the Bears hire Fitzgerald?
Not a
I
good
don't
year to
understand
hire
that at all.
Fitzgerald. Yeah.
I don't understand that at all. Two, I mean, Tommy Reese has never really done anything in the NFL. I think what he does at Notre Dame is not something that you can just plug in and say, okay, he hasn't done a whole lot at Notre Dame yet. So I don't think that would happen at all. I'd be shocked if either one of those things happen. Next question. Have you had as much fun in a post game since you did the Oklahoma 2012 win? What a legendary show that was. Yeah, that was a crazy one. We definitely I remember that. Yes, that was a lot of fun. Let's see. Here we go. As of today, does this freshman class seem like the best recruiting class for Notre Dame since?
The one thing
I'd say, go ahead.
On offense, it's probably going to be up there, but I think there's still a lot we have to learn about the defense.
Yeah.
And
there's hardly any of them playing,
Yeah, and I think
Coley. I mean, Coley is. I mean, is there any other freshman playing on defense?
No. No, and we don't know about we just don't know about the DBs yet because they're not playing, and I don't think any of those guys are close to playing. And some of those guys, I think, like you talked about earlier on ISD, sign up for Irish Sports Daily so you can read some of those updates. But there's guys that they like in the defensive class, and Kahanu Kia made a big play on the kickoff, and they like him, and Coley. You're excited about their potential there, but how many stars are there going to be on the defensive side? I don't know. We don't know yet, right? I think on offense, we could say you feel pretty good that they're going to have a handful of stars there, right? So I don't think they did a great job on the defensive side of the ball in the class comparatively to the offense. They've had a lot better classes on defense than this one.
Yeah, I think when you look at the defensive class, you could almost kind of tell Clark Lee was out the door, just not a lot of
COVID year 2. So that will play a part in it.
But still, sure. I mean, they got the players on offense,
yes.
during COVID year.
Yep. They did.
So
right.
you could do it on defense, and it just didn't happen. And what are you gonna do? All right. All right. Is there a current coach in waiting at Notre Dame right now. Your guess, of course. No, I mean, I don't think so. Maybe. If Freeman sticks around for a long time and he does well, maybe. If Reese sticks around for a while and Tom and Brian Kelly retires and he happens to be here, maybe. It's crazy. Week to week, we kind of switch back on. Are we mad at the offense? Are we mad at the defense? So I don't see that there's a guy right now that I'd say, oh yeah, got to hire him on the staff. Would you, as a head coach?
No, I don't think there's any I wouldn't say there's an obvious choice. And I think people got really excited about Marcus Freeman, the way he was recruiting. And then, then there was the Florida State game and then people backed off of that. Right. And then, Tommy Reese, he's done good in these last few weeks, but then you got to let it play out, and see where it's at. And I think you look at Clark Lee, and obviously he went into not a good situation at Vanderbilt, but I think you could have said right now, how good Vanderbilt going to be in 3 years? Say if Kelly walked away in 3 years from now, right? I don't know that he's going to walk away, or he might still be coaching 5 years, 6 years, how many years from now, right? But let's just say he walked away 3 years from now, and everyone would have said, well, Clark Lee would have been an obvious choice. Well, what if they just keep sucking at Vanderbilt? Well, then, he's not getting the job. So, so much can change. And I think it's just too early to say.
All right. We're going to take one more question, folks. If Davis is out for a while the rest of the season, do you consider moving Watts back to wide receiver? Of course, he went out, had a nice debut on defense today, but his 5 scholarship wide receivers is not good. I don't think you do that to the kid. I just don't.
No.
If you want to keep the kid, which is clear he does because Kelly's always mentioning him, and we saw today he's a good athlete, and I always thought he'd be a good safety, and I'd like to see him at safety. If nothing else, I'd consider just playing him now. I think he's earned at least some opportunities to actually play now at safety. Because let's be honest, I'm not happy. I don't think either one of those positions has been productive since Kyle Hamilton's been out, and I just don't think that we've seen a lot from Griffith either, Houston Griffith, all year. And so if that's the case, then what are you waiting for? I don't know. I would like to see him get a shot. I really would like to see him get a shot. And just to see what happens,
I would too. Yeah, I think just, I don't know how much he's going to play this year, but I think, what we've seen from him on special teams, what they're saying about him, what he showed in his brief glimpses in this game, let this guy focus on this. Cause I think that was one of the problems with Avery Davis, because if they said right away, you're a slot receiver, I think he would have contributed way earlier in his career.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And I think they hurt him
big time.
Right. So, it would be ironic if this is what they did with Watts, because they're like, well, you're hurting you because you're going to do, I don't think it would be a good idea. Maybe if they get down to one more injury, maybe. Right.
Yeah.
But you can still get by with 5 the rest of the way.
All right.
It's not ideal, but yeah.
All right. We got another donation to the Kai Ueyama College Scholarship Fund here from Scott Lammers. No question. Just wanted to say thank you for the podcast and post-game show. Thank you so much, Scott.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. Kai appreciates that as well.
Yeah.
We're going to put him in a good – maybe you go to Notre Dame. What do you think?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, he's got the Yama smarts.
He better get in.
Well, he's got the Yama smarts.
Yeah.
I think he'd probably get in academically.
Pull some strings for him. So.
Well, no, I think he'd probably get in academically, right?
Yeah.
Full ride?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
All right. All right, I lied. We got one more comment here. Question, and this is more a reflection of how good Kyron is, but what do you think our record would be without Kyron Williams? Ooh. I'd say they have at least 2 more losses. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that Purdue game, and obviously you see Purdue, whatever, but those 2 big plays he made in the Purdue game were the difference in the game.
Yeah.
Right. And they couldn't do much on offense all game.
Yeah.
He has 2 big plays, and look at how many every game. Like the guy's just. I mean, as excited as we are about Logan Diggs, and obviously Chris Tyree when he gets fully healthy, it's going to be tough to replace a guy like that. He's been the best back in the Brian
Long
Kelly
time.
era,
Yeah.
for sure. Like,
And
yeah,
I like the
think
backs.
probably,
I like the backs, but they're not Kyron. They're just not. They're good players. There's no doubt about it. But Kyron will find you yards that hardly any running back can find. And
yeah,
he's just special, man. He's special. If he would have had the opportunity to kind of run again this year with the offensive line last year, man, if that group was here again,
1,500 yards. Yeah,
it would have. Yeah, it would have been incredible. It really would. So, all right, folks, that's going to be it. Thanks for attending and your questions, and I hope you appreciated that. We will be back next week after Virginia, right, Jamie?
Yep. I mean, well, we see what the game time is. I don't think they announced it yet.
No.
Might be a night game.
It is. I'm going to guess. Yeah.
I'm going to guess it's probably a night game. Hopefully after another big Notre Dame win.
No doubt. Yeah. All right. For me and the Yama, we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.